We're gonna finish streaming today. Yeah. I gotta continue. Gotta finish streaming, god damn it. Gotta finish this. The body wasn't there. The police didn't arrest me because of that, but I didn't know whether to feel happy about it. Just like Sadako had said, I failed to kill her uncle. The body wasn't there, so I was forced to conclude as much, no matter what the strange natural disaster, coincidence, or miracle might have implied. In order to free Sadako, I became a demon, and this abnormal world was my reward. Yes, metaphorically, I had fallen into the demon world. But if that price had been in exchange for the life of Sadako's uncle, then that would have been fine. Since Sadako's uncle was still alive, still shackling her to him, I needed to become a demon once again. One more time. No, as many times as it took. I would kill that man over and over again until Sadako was liberated. I had already awoken. I looked at the clock to see it was early in the morning. Just about 5. It's already light outside. Once I had hardened my resolve to become a demon again, I could feel my whole body teeming with awakened power once more. Time wasn't an issue. No matter what, I'd do it. I got myself up. The exhaustion from the past 2 days completely swept away, and I didn't even feel sleepy anymore either. Slowly rose and made sure my body was moving like I wanted it to. I could feel blood flowing through each and every one of my fingers. As I got dressed, I let my mind wander and had a strange thought. These 2 days, while I said it was for Sadako's sake, the only thing on my mind has been killing. I said it was for Sadako, but while actually carrying out the act, I had completely forgotten about Sadako, albeit only temporarily. Maybe initially it was for Sadako's sake, but now I was just a demon, killing for the sake of killing, and as a result I had sunken into a world fit for such a demon. Maybe it was the same for Satoshi. He resolved himself to kill his aunt to save Sadako, became a demon, and disappeared from the sunlit Hinamizawa, vanishing into the demon world, which meant that, after all was said and done, I had met the same fate as him. I tried to avoid making the same mistakes, but it happened anyway, which meant that maybe Satoshi was here. Satoshi had come to this world a year before me, so he had to be here somewhere. Then, surprised, I stopped walking. There was the second set of footsteps I had grown so used to hearing. Could you be Satoshi? The empty, lifeless air wouldn't give me an answer, but I felt a strange kind of relief. That there was someone there, that Satoshi had stuck with me the whole time. Let's go, Satoshi. Once more. This time I'll set Sadako free for sure. I quietly slipped out of the house, so my parents wouldn't notice. If they caught me now, when I had been out late for 2 days now, they'd give me a really angry talking to. I didn't have the time to allow that to happen. Today I would put an end to it. If the dead body disappeared, then I didn't have to bury it. I could just burn it to ashes, and take them with me, so I'd kill him again every time he resurrected. I'd do it again. I'd kill him again. And this time, I'd set her free. Outside, the morning light was so beautiful as to stagger belief. I went to the storage room to find weapons where I could kill him for sure. Blunt or not, it didn't matter to me. Right now I didn't care whether someone saw or if the police came. This world had gone crazy after all. A world where I'd shown up at the festival and had fun, even though I wasn't there. Even if the police arrested me, I'd probably end up going right back home as if nothing had happened. Both me and that other Keiichi Maribara. Even without me, he'd fill in. I could vanish from Hinamizawa without anyone noticing. So basically, I didn't care if I was mistakenly killed. Even if I died, Keiichi Maribara would remain. After all, this isn't the world I belonged in. If I was going to be killed for mistakenly for Sadako's sake, then that's just part of my duty as her Nini. As those desperate thoughts became serious, the morning air felt more refreshing to me, strangely enough. Oh, this one's scary. Let's go with this. It was a hatchet meant for chopping thick firewood. Its hefty steel blade was sinister, almost as though it was a tool meant for killing people. I couldn't exactly take it out in public like that, so I wrapped it a little in some old newspaper and tossed it in a basket on my bike. Sorry for using you for evil all the time. I'll need you again today, my legs. Apologized to my bike for some reason. For the past 3 days, I had been using it for dangerous things. I'd been riding this bike ever since I lived in my old town. I could walk most places I wanted to go, but I hadn't used it all that much. My mom had bought it for me when I entered cram school, thinking it would be a convenient way to get to the station since it was far away, so I'd always use it to get back and forth from cram school. I'd only ever put textbooks and class materials in the front basket, too. I never tried to put a hatchet that I'd be using to kill someone in here. When I came to Hinamizawa, life finally felt fun. I met the best friends ever and had some of the greatest times ever. Those times might have been shattered now, but it was my greatest wish that I could get them back, even if I had to risk my life to do it. That's how fun those times had been. I killed someone, and now I was at it again, needing to kill someone. Murder was a crime. I didn't believe that people should ever think murder was okay. But still, times I had were enjoyable enough for me to commit such a crime. My friends were irreplaceable, and the time spent with them was a treasure, hanging out, laughing, sometimes tricking each other, but always in a fun, friendly way. I didn't fear committing any crime, as long as it was for the sake of taking back those times that give my heart so much pleasure. Yes, this was a value I decided to uphold. It wasn't something I had learned from a school teacher. It was a noble path that I chose for myself. I thought back to when I first came to Hinamizawa, and about how on the very first day Sadako had welcomed me via a blackboard eraser with a rock in it. That welcome really surprised the heck out of me. She would laugh, get angry, cry. She was never boring. She was obviously the most childlike among us, but she was actually lively, full of vim and vigor, and good at meddling in other people's business. That went for Mion, Rena, and Rika-chan too. Wasn't Sadako the one at the center of everyone's laughter and banter? Sadako would try to look cool. Then Mion would make fun of her endlessly. And then Sadako would cry, which put Rena into a state of ecstasy. Rika-chan would be greatly delighted. And I happened to get mixed up in it. We would always fool around like that. It was lonely when someone wasn't around, but if it had to name one of whom it was the worst, it would have been Sadako. Her smile was everyone's smile. Ever since she stopped smiling, so did the rest of us. And for the rest of us, not smiling was the same as dying. It was just like when I was silently going to cram school every day, just to maintain my unchanging test scores. So basically, we were nothing when she wasn't smiling. She was full of hot air, but she was our princess, cute and unhateable. In that case, I was her knight, searching for the dragon's castle in order to win her smile back. Knights, of course, use swords, the awesome two-handed kind. I'm probably the only knight in history of the world to be taking someone on with a thick, rusty hatchet. And I saw an old woman in the ridge of a field waving to me. "Oh my, Kate-kun, out for a morning ride, I see. Good morning." I reflexively waved back in a refreshing way. Should I really have been feeling so happy waving like that? Sadako's house would be right past this road, going beyond the rice paddies. The cicadas had woken up too. The next thing I knew, I was the audience of their daily chorus. I gave myself a hit or two in the head and drove away my merry morning mood. I took a deep breath, tilted my head back, quelling my pointless excitement. The body wasn't there. Its absence either meant my killing him had been an illusion, or I'd kill him and he had risen from the dead. If I was at the festival, then maybe I should have considered it an illusion. Coach probably thought that way, which is why he treated me like a lunatic. But it being an illusion was just impossible. I killed him without a doubt. Without a doubt. If it had been an illusion, it would make all of the Hinamizawa is in right now an illusion. If that was the case, then here's how it would end up. I was actually in a vegetative state due to a traffic accident, and I was currently dreaming in a hospital bed about how great it would be to spend time with my friends in rice paddies like these. It was a terrifying thought, though. If this wasn't an illusion, then the only possible answer was that he'd resurrected. It would make him a literal monster. But if he was such a monster, then I was no less a monster than myself. I didn't hesitate to kill someone, and I could even manipulate curses. Takano-san died probably because I cursed her. Or maybe it was just a little too much. If Coach and Oshi-san died too, and I'd cursed them to yesterday, then I'd believe it. I set my bicycle aside and went to take a look. His motorbike wasn't here. Of course it wasn't. I sent it down to hell that night, throwing it in the Onigafuchi swamp. Maybe. Just like how the corpse wasn't here, maybe the motorbike didn't get thrown in the swamp either. The fact that his bike wasn't here might have been because he had gone to town and hadn't come back. Not necessarily because I'd thrown it into the swamp. If her uncle wasn't around, then that was convenient on its own. And I would just show myself in, wait for him to return, sharpening my hatchet. If he was there. Forgotten senses came back to my gut. A feeling of tension rose within me. The sensation was like poison, dulling my actions. But it could also be the trigger to allow me to awaken to my superhuman, otherworldly self. I held the hatchet, still wrapped in newspaper. Its weight in my hands was profound, sinister, and reliable. I didn't know what time it was without a clock. It was still a little up before 7. Sadako would probably be awake, preparing breakfast and her lunch. But her uncle would probably still be wallowing in indolence. This guy would probably have stayed up late drinking and probably always slept till near noon. I considered ringing the doorbell and having Sadako open the door for me, but if her uncle woke up at the sound, I'd waste my chance of him still being asleep. If Sadako saw me sneaking inside without ringing the doorbell, she'd be surprised. If I ran into her, what would I say? I've come to kill your uncle for you, so stay quiet. No, I couldn't do that. That'd be like making Sadako responsible for his death. Be quiet and go outside. Maybe that would do it. How would Sadako react to that? She'd probably try and get me to give up on killing him. I'd have to lie somehow to get her to go outside. Sadako didn't need to know that a murder was going to occur in this house. I couldn't quite think of a good lie to tell her, but I couldn't do much with just standing around like this. I made up my mind and grabbed the doorknob. Then slowly turned it, and pulled. It wasn't locked. The gap between the door and the wall steadily grew larger. The chain wasn't even on. The oppressive smell of life in Sadako's house hit me. At the entrance there was a few pairs of shoes and sandals. I couldn't tell whether he was here or not just by looking at them. I could hear a television on somewhere. The television was in a messy dining room. There's food scattered around the table, giving an impression decidedly different from a happy family's mealtime. Meals were for eating food while thanking the person for making them, meaning whatever occurred in this dining room wasn't a meal. Nobody in sight. No sign of anyone either. But with the television on, he must have been close. Could he have anticipated my coming and been hiding, waiting for me? The tension I felt was so thick, so tight, that I thought it would choke me. The newspaper wrapping my hatchet-thick blade didn't dampen its power at all. I tightened my grip on it and very carefully took a look around. I firmly grasped it! Where had those peaceful feelings from before I arrived here gone? Even the sound of sweat bubbling up on my brow got on my nerves. And then I looked at the table and realized something. This wasn't breakfast. The grains of boiled rice were all hard and dried up. Then, was it last night's dinner? I left the dining room, keeping vigilant, went down the hallway and found the stairs to the second floor. When that man was playing with his friends, he looked out the second-story window. It was highly possible that that room was his own, and that he slept there. He tiptoed the edges of the stairs, quietly climbing without making a sound. I couldn't hear any kind of snoring. I didn't hear anything up there. I went through a few rooms, slowly and quietly opening the paper doors, checking inside. I still couldn't find anyone around. To search more effectively, I got down on the floor and pressed my ear right up to it. I could hear the television in the dining room and a low hum, perhaps of boiling water. It was then that I started to harbor some feelings of suspicion. This house wasn't right. It seemed like people had been here since the TV was on, but it wasn't normal for nobody to be around this early in the morning. I silently descended the stairs and went back into the dining room. I looked at the food scattered about. Completely dried up rice. An overturned bowl of miso soup. A package of side dish bought at the supermarket. I could tell Sadako had definitely been the one who made this. The food was far from Mion's perfection or Rena's elegance, but it was sincere. Judging by how she cooked for me at the house, and from the type and amount of side dishes, I deduced a meal from last night. The numbers stamped into the food package read 830620, June 20th, 1983. That was yesterday. And there was food for two, which meant this was last night's dinner, and Sadako's uncle had been here then. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't even think about saying the word impossible again. Anyway, her uncle was here last night. That much was the truth. He had found fault with Sadako's food, thrown the bowl of miso soup, and flung the rest everywhere else. Hidden deep within my feelings of calm and composure was lit a flame of anger and a curse. Should I have ever shown this man any mercy? Bump. I heard the sound again, the one from before, like a water boiler. Where was it coming from? This first floor? But where? The bathroom, maybe? I could hear the noise coming from the other side of the frosty glass in the far end of the changing room. It had to have been the sound of a water boiler from the bath. Steam was enshrouding the glass door, and the heat from it was leaking into the changing room where I was standing in too. My misgivings deepened. People didn't normally take a bath this early in the morning. If one did, then it would mean that in this house time had stopped ever since some moment last night. Was it being reheated? The water boiler in the bathroom had been active this whole time. I checked in the clothing basket and saw Sadako's familiar uniform stuffed in it. The uniform had stains and dried rice stuck to it. Certainly not something she could wear today. It's probably from the miso soup at the dinner table yesterday. I looked hard at the frosted glass, but I couldn't see anything at all through all the seeth. And then an electric surge ran through my mind, and a terrible premonition came over me. Could she? She couldn't possibly have been in there since last night. That would be impossible! Well, no! In Hinamizawa right now, nothing was impossible. I gulped audibly, and quietly pulled aside the glass door. Hot, steaming air burst out of the slight opening. The fan wasn't on in the changing room, so it went completely white with steam. Just as the hot vapor poured into the changing room, cooler air flowed into the room with the bath, and I just heard, due to being hit by that air, a very weak moan. That was all I needed to know who it was. Sadako! No answer. Sadako was in the bathtub, surrounded by a thick layer of rising steam. The top half of her body was leaning over the edge of the tub, and she was passed out. The water boiler kept on making a whistling noise as if angered. I could see the gas flames through the small window. It was roaring at full force, completely blue. Sadako's entire body was boiled red and flaccid, as though her bones had melted away. She was almost like a doll as she lay there unconscious. I wasn't sure how many seconds passed as I stared in complete bafflement. I came back to my senses and promptly shut off the boiler. Then I dragged Sadako's small body out of the bathtub. The water in it was as hot as the water in public baths. Was she in this boiling water for the entire night? She'll die! She'll die! Sadako's body was lighter than I expected as I laid her on the floor and wrapped her in a towel. I went back into the bathroom and opened up the vent, creating a path of cool breeze to come through. Upon the breeze hitting her, Sadako moaned again. It'll be alright, Sadako. It's me, Keiichi. Keiichi, can you hear me? Keiichi-san. Sadako recognized me and muttered a response, but I couldn't really tell what she was saying. Her eyes were muddy and unfocused, and I could tell she wasn't completely conscious. Upon closer expression, her limbs and waist were twitching slightly. This was way worse than normal overheating. This was dangerous. Didn't they call this heat stroke? Think, what would the teacher do if a girl passed out in the middle of summer during a marathon in the clam class or something? I turned the water faucet in the kitchen all the way on and soaked a towel in it. Then I took the cold towel and pressed it to Sadako's forehead. Sadako reacted harshly to the coldness and let out a muffled voice. For burns, right, you would soak the burn spot under running water. Then could I run cold water in the shower and cool her off like that? No, if it was that sudden, it wouldn't be good for her heart. She could go into shock. I think I read that once before. That was as much nursing as I could possibly give her. Anything more than this would be too much for the likes of an amateur. What happened, Sadako? You're all right now. I will. Your Nini will save you for sure. 5,039. 40. What was Sadako reciting under her breath? I brought an ear to her mouth to better make out the mysterious spell-like words she kept saying. At that moment, I understood what they were for. Sadako, you're counting? Why? People tell little kids in the bath to count to 100 a lot, right? Sadako was counting like that. But 5,039? You moron! How long were you supposed to count to your own bathtub? 10,000. I doubted my ears and doubted the common sense. 10,000? You're a freaking idiot! What kind of dumbass would count to 10,000? There's no way you could do that! You'll boil to death before you get that far. What were you? My uncle. Last night, her uncle fell into a rage at the dinner table she had made and said it stunk and was inedible. Sadako didn't understand what on earth he meant. It wasn't much different than what she usually made for him. Maybe he hated the smell of pickled vegetables she had brought in particular. Her uncle then decided the stink was originating from Sadako and shouted at her that she never ever took baths. And then he put Sadako in the boiling water and told her to come out when she counted 2. You! I snapped and exploded. Raising the newspaper wrapped hatchet, I stampeded through the house. I searched for anything, traces, signs, smells, vibrations, heartbeats. With a war cry, I raced up the stairs with such force I could have stomped a hole through them. And I found the futon in the room I thought to be her uncle's. Well aware he wasn't sleeping in it, bashed it with the hatchet. Then he ran into the closet. I buzzed the entire closet down, door and all. If he wasn't there, maybe there's a secret door. Any switches or levers in the walls here? I smashed into the wall after wall with the hatchet crushing them. Dust rose in the air and broken pieces scattered about the floor. I smashed all the glass windows too, for good measure. After I destroyed everything beyond recognition in her uncle's room, my reason finally kicked in and suppressed my emotions. Anyway, her uncle wasn't in the house right now. I had to leave killing him until later. Right now, I had to do something about Sadako. I went back to the changing room. Sadako was still lying limp on the floor. There was nothing more than an amateur like me could do for her. I needed to take her to the clinic. Coach had treated me like a lunatic yesterday and tried to lock me up in a mental hospital. Never wanted to see his damn face again. But I still needed to go to the infirmary one more time. I needed to have a doctor look at Sadako. I thought about putting her in a dirty uniform lying in the laundry basket, but I had no experience dressing someone, so it would be pretty difficult. I don't have time to be wasting here. I eventually gave up on clothing and decided to carry her in a bath towel. The clinic was close to Sadako's house. It'd be way faster to carry her there than to call 119 and get an ambulance. I threw the biggest towel I could find on her and prompted her to stand. Can you stand? I'll carry you over to the clinic. Thank you. Her words sounded clearer than before. She was starting to come back. I cried tears of relief just knowing she had improved even a little bit. Sadako turned over so she was lying on her face, and put up a weak struggle to get up on a knee. I smoothly swept her up and put her on my back. The towel I put on her seemed like it was about to fall off. The towel, it hurts. We'll be there soon. It won't be long, so stay strong. It didn't hurt one bit to carry Sadako. She was light, too light. The lightness actually made me uneasy. Outside it had gotten hotter, as though eager to attack Sadako. Fucking cicadas, why did it have to choose this morning to be so hot out? I didn't have time to swear at them. The clinic was this way. Hoisting Sadako on my back, I broke out into a trot. Oh man, we're almost there. We're getting to the climax. I'm excited for this. The hilly road to the clinic, which had never had difficulties before, was now tortuous. Big beads of sweat formed on my brow, and at some point my breath had grown faint. The hatchet on my belt was heavy and made it hard to walk. I considered leaving it, but I couldn't let it go. At least not while Sadako's uncle was still breathing. The signboard for the 88 clinic came into sight, but I quickly noticed something was odd, so I stopped. Several red revolving lights were flashing at the clinic. 3 police cars were parked in the parking lot with their lights on. There didn't need to be much else to inform me something had happened. I didn't want to see Coach, so I had planned to leave Sadako at the clinic waiting room and give the receptionist a message. But with that police officer Oshi there, I couldn't go inside so carelessly. What's going on? Why are there so many police cars? I gently put Sadako down in the shade of a thicket. I don't know. I'll go see what happens, so you stay here for a moment. Leaving a lady in a place like this, wearing nothing but a bath towel? Simply unforgivable. If you can still fire off insults, you'll be fine. I'll be right back, I added, getting to my feet. Cautious of my surroundings, I hid myself behind a car and got close to the officers' group with clinic's interest. I overheard an officer, wearing a necktie, probably their leader, and a white-robed doctor having a discussion about something. The doctor seemed to be Coach. It's one of those who Coach had told to make tea yesterday. So you were the first to find it, since you were on morning duty? So then, what did it look like? He was sitting on the sofa in the head office. He looked like he was taking a nap. There was a jug and an empty bottle of sleep medication on his desk, so you immediately thought he tried to commit suicide with it. What else? His high temperature and incontinence indicated a severe disturbance of consciousness. It seemed like a typical case of sleeping pill poisoning, so I immediately began to treat him, without calling the police or an ambulance. This is a hospital, and I'm a doctor! Since his life was in danger, it was my job to treat him at once. Yes, I understand. Okay. What else? His breathing was in disarray, so I put him on a respirator. I also administered breathing stimulants. It had no effect, so I prepared a medical ventilator and... Right. So in other words, you did what you could, but it wasn't enough. That's it, right? You reported this as soon as he died? Yes. It was very unfortunate that we were unable to save him. Just then a radio in one of the police cars started violently, producing a broken mechanical voice. This is HQ. Komiyama-san, can you hear me? Over. Hello, this is Komiyama. We've come up with something. It looks like he committed suicide with sleeping pills. No notes or anything. Suicide? What the heck are they talking about? Someone committed suicide at the clinic. But who? I wish Takano-san dead, but she died the next day. And yesterday I wish Kosh was dead. Then, could he have... Did he use sleeping medication regularly? I don't really know. Did he normally complain that he was tired or wanting to die? Well, Irie-sensei was normally so well himself. He never acted like that. So, I was right. Irie-sensei. They were talking about Coach. Coach killed himself. Why would he do that? There couldn't have been any reason he wanted to die. The only reason that came to mind was that I wanted him dead. This world was insane. If I wanted someone dead, they died. That was the kind of world this was. Then what about Oshi? What happened to him? If people really died because I wanted them to, then something should have happened to him too. I've sent you back up. The chief wants you to leave the rest of them and get back to searching for Oshi's car. Yes, sir. Please, excuse me then. It looks like we're getting relieved here, so please leave everything as it is right now. All right, let's go. The officers nodded and split up into the patrol cars. Did they say searching for Oshi's car? Searching for his car. That meant he had gone missing? Takano-san, Coach, and Oshi. When I wished for it, the very next day, they disappeared. No matter how angry you were when you said you wished someone was dead, it didn't normally happen. Everyone knew just wishing it couldn't make them dead, and that's why people would utter such curses so lightly. But the curses I uttered were being granted. At the time, I hadn't even been walking, and yet I had a footstep. And it wasn't only one this time. They came from behind, and they stood right behind me, reaching a hand for my shoulder. Would you mind telling me what's going on? Ah! Sadako? Don't scare me like that. I'm the scared one here. I'd prefer it if you didn't shout so suddenly. It was Sadako. Her eyes were still unstable, unfocused, but she was able to at least walk on her own now. She looked far better now compared to her earlier exhausted state. How do you feel? Are you better? My head still hurts. And I can't stay out outside looking like this forever. She gave a smile, a show of courage, but her legs were still shaking. Anyway, what on earth is going on? From what I just heard the police talking about, Coach apparently committed suicide. Huh? Sadako was at a loss for words. Her face grew paler and paler, and I could tell she was doubting her own ears. Kage-san, is that true? I didn't mishear you? That's what I heard. They said Irie-sensei killed himself with sleeping pills. Sadako went down on her knees and broke into tears. It can't be. Coach, he would never, ever kill himself. As I watched Sadako crying and clawing at the grass, I felt myself trapped by guilt and remorse. I got so angry that Coach was treating me like a madman yesterday, that he betrayed me, that I had thought he'd be better off dead. But even Coach, who, to me, deserved to die, still must have had people who loved and respected him, like Sadako here. In my selfish, egotistical anger, I wished for his death, and it was granted. And now Sadako was crying hysterically as a result. The guilt tore at my heart. I worked myself up to murder for Sadako's sake. I decided I wanted Sadako to be happy. But was that really all it took? Murder meant taking someone's life. It meant making everyone attached to that person sad. In Sadako's uncle's case, of course, nobody would be sad, so I didn't feel a sense of guilt at all. But Coach's death was different. I had wanted to make Sadako happy, and that had resulted in me inflicting a deep sadness upon her, hadn't I? But Coach killed himself. It wasn't my... Sadako still hadn't stopped crying, but she seemed to be a little calmer now. Wiping her tears, she stood up. I'm sorry. The only thing I could think of to say to her was an apology. Why are you apologizing? Yesterday I got into a fight with Coach, and I thought that I wanted him to die. I wanted it so he really... Sadako looked at me dubiously for a few moments. Eventually her expression softened as she interpreted my words in her own way. It isn't your fault, Kate-san. Coach wasn't an adult too. He felt like there was something he had to give his life for. To choose to do so after a lot of worrying and suffering, it's not anyone's fault. She smiled a little, trying to comfort me. I do not want to be naked forever. I want some clothes. Are you okay? Shouldn't you get someone to the clinic too? I won't die from putting on clothes before going. Sadako readjusted her bath towel and started back along the path. Her stride was wobbly and didn't look like she had recovered as much as she let on. At first, Sadako tried to go back home. There was a time in the morning when people were going to school and to work, so seeing people walking, she thought better of it. She must have been pretty embarrassed wearing only the towel. I'm going to Rika's house. My clothes should be there. What's wrong? Kage-san. Sadako noticed how I was hanging my head and spoke to me. Despite how he might have come off, Coach was an adult, all right? He certainly would not have killed himself out of a petty fight with you, Kage-san. Please stop blaming yourself. At first I thought it was a coincidence, but with 3 people now I couldn't discard the possibility. There was no such thing as impossible in this world. These past few days haven't made any sense. What hasn't? Sadako seemed to be having trouble breathing, but she still tried to listen to what I had to say. At the Watanagashi festival the day before last, you went home on the way there, right? And I went there and had a lot of fun. So it would seem. I do apologize for getting so upset at you about that. Sadako remembered how she blew up at me in the classroom yesterday and bowed at me a little. If I said I actually didn't go to the festival at all, would you believe me? Sadako looked at me confused. She couldn't help it, of course. Of course I wouldn't believe you. What are you on about? You wouldn't, right? I didn't believe it either. I mean, I didn't go to the festival, but everyone's saying I hung out with them there. Nobody would believe it, right? Are you being serious? Yeah. Ever since the night of the Watanagashi, everything's been messed up. These weird footsteps suddenly started following me everywhere. The blood drained from Sadako's expression. Footsteps following you? Yeah. I thought it was just my imagination at first, but they stayed with me. They're probably still there. I can't tell them apart now because of your footsteps, though. Sadako took a long, hard look at me. Maybe she was doubting my sanity. Coach did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't he after telling him this? The more I thought about it, the more I was unable to enjoy the feelings that my hatred for Coach had been meaningless. On the day of Watanagashi, I didn't go. I was doing something else the whole time. I wasn't sleeping or unconscious or anything, so it's not possible that I walked to the festival in my sleep and forgot about it afterwards. That is quite strange. And how were you at the festival? That's what I mean. I didn't go to the festival. No, I can't let myself get emotional. If I get agitated now, that'd be proving that there's something wrong with my head. Sorry, but nobody believes me, so yeah. If that's what you say, Kage-san, then I'll believe you. Then what? That night I saw Takano-san, and it felt like she was looking down on me. So I made a wish that she would die. Takano-san does have that sort of air about her, doesn't she? I can't say that I don't understand how you feel. Did you know that Takano-san died? It happened yesterday. Apparently she was burned alive somewhere. Is that true? She died? I wished for her to die, and the next day she was dead. I know she's from the police, too. Do you know him? An annoying fat detective guy? Sadako nodded a little. I heard from the police earlier, and apparently he went missing. And yesterday, actually. I wish that he would die. Is that all of this true? I'm not lying. I don't want to believe it either, but it is true. Takano-san Coach knows she wanted them dead. Then they really died. For a little while, Sadako was at a loss. A long silence ensued. What a scary story! I should be sure not to get on your bad side, Kate-san. That's not all. There's something even stranger. It's about your uncle. I would rather you didn't talk about my uncle. He was there yesterday, right? At your house? Could we please stop talking about him? I don't want to. It's impossible. He couldn't have been there. I said stop talking about him! No! No! That man couldn't have been there after the night of Watanagashi because I... No! No more, please! No more about that man! I killed him! With my own hands! Even the cicadas stopped crying. Her face was streaked with tears, and it stiffened even more as she looked at me in disbelief. On the night of the Watanagashi festival, I killed your uncle. So it's impossible that he could have gone back home. But still, he went back. And last night, he found fault with the dinner you made him, yelled all sorts of things at you, and basically boiled you in the bathtub. That couldn't possibly have happened. So I wanted to make sure I actually killed him, so yesterday I went to dig up the corpse I buried, but the body wasn't there. Is that even possible? I killed him for sure, but there was no body. And he went home like nothing happened, home to you, and that wasn't supposed to happen, was it? Sadako's entire body stiffened. She was shrinking away, like someone in front of her, about to hurt her. You probably think I've gone a little crazy, don't you? I don't blame you. I can't believe it myself. Kage-san, I think You were very confused about after all the people you wished were dead coincidentally died. You're just in shock at Coach's suicide and you're really upset. I think you should stay home from school today and rest. I'll be fine, so please take care of yourself. Sadako spoke like she understood me, but she also told me to go home. I could see the revulsion in her face and knew she didn't want to be around me anymore. Once I show you to the clinic, I'll go home. Your legs are still shaking, aren't they? It'd be terrible if you collapsed halfway there. Really, I'm fine now. I don't want to expose my naked self to a man any more than this. She wobbled up the shrine steps, looking like she was about to fall. I immediately ran up to her and helped her stay on her feet. Then Sadako promptly jumped away from me. That outright rejection hurt a lot. Once she got to the top of the stairs, her breathing was ragged. She wasn't even looking at me. At this point, I was being ignored. Well, it was more like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. It really was a feeling of rejection. That hurt my heart more than any blade could have. This was the part I chose for her sake. To be treated like this at the end of it all was just so saddening. Don't be naive, Keiichi Marubara. You never want to be repaid in the first place. You didn't do it so Sadako would thank you. You did it so Sadako would be happy. And that was what led to this ending. Rika-chan's house was a disaster prevention storehouse used by the town council. If you went past it, a little further through the shrine grounds, you'd apparently reach the back of the assembly hall. Sadako was heading there, walking quickly, gravel under her feet crunching as she went. Did she want to get there as soon as possible? Did she want to run away? I couldn't tell. And then I heard the vigorous sound of wings flapping. Turned around and saw a crow. I hadn't seen many crows since coming to Hinamizawa. Saw them a lot in my old town, though. On garbage day, they flocked to our trash collection points, peck through the bags with their beaks, drag out the contents, and have a feast. As I was remembering that, saw a few crows flocking around the shrine's donation box. I thought how terrible it was for someone to leave a garbage bag in a place like that. The cicadas quieted. Breathing stopped. Thoughts ceased. Even time came to a halt. I ran over to where the crows were flocking. I ran there in order to drive a horrible idea out of my mind. I definitely hadn't wanted this. There was no way I ever wished for this even by mistake. This was not. When they noticed my vigorous approach, the crows all flapped upwards, fleeing into the sky. Where the crows' big black bodies flew away, they exposed the garbage bag. What had I seen there? A scream had escaped my throat before I even understood what I was looking at. What was this? Sadako came over as well, realizing something had happened. She looked over my shoulder. Then she screamed as well. This wasn't... The garbage bag was crimson, dyed in fresh blood. I couldn't have the stupid roundabout way of saying it. That's right, yes. It was... Rika-chan. Our friend, Sadako's best friend. Always easygoing, clever as a cat. So cute you couldn't hate her. Our friend, Rika-chan, Rika-chan was stark naked. She was face up, limbs sprawled. Her eyes were like glass, just staring up into the sky. And... Oh! Rika! Sadako broke down crying on the spot, and yet she still couldn't approach her friend's remains. The crows had gotten through the garbage bag and they dragged out an apple peel and spread it all over. No. Crows, they couldn't do this. Ugh. On the spot, I started vomiting. The sour taste became a bitter one as I threw up over and over again. Rika-chan, her stomach was cut wide open, vertically, completely open. Rika! Crows couldn't have done this. From her open stomach, her organs, her bowels were dragged out like children's toys left all over the floor. That unbelievable sight induced oxygen deprivation in my brain. Color left my vision. Pounding headache, dizzy, and I wanted to vomit. It was like the nightmarish remains of a ceremonial killing. Someone somewhere had killed Rika-chan, brought her here, laid her with her limbs sprawled out, and then cut her open her stomach, dragged out her intestines. Red and pink viscera were sticking out of her gut, and her intestines were scattered out in every direction like it had been for fun. The entire ground was covered in an ocean of red and black. A few of the crows had hopped around inside that ocean. They walked through the sea of blood, leaving bloody footprints. In those footprints, there were several still left on Riko-chan's body. Those sinister prints made it seem like even more like a bizarre ritual killing. I may have wished for Takano-san and Coach and Oshi to die, but I didn't remember ever wishing for Riko-chan's death. Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I stumbled backwards and stepped on a newspaper. A newspaper? A place like this? The newspaper was what was covering my hatchet. I kept it wrapped up and on my belt in order to carry Sadako, and that newspaper had fallen off. She didn't scare me like that. I bent down to pick it up, and then Sadako looked at me with such disbelief I had never seen and froze. She was looking straight at me, at the hatchet on my belt. Calm down, Sadako! This isn't what it looks like! Sadako, trembling madly, backed away. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't. She didn't care at all that she was exposing herself through the towel. She just trembled and began to step back from the demon in front of her. Sadako, please, calm down. Please relax. Sadako, no, no! Screaming weakly, Sadako began to run unsteadily. Run away, that is. Wait, please wait, Sadako, you're wrong! That's not it! The way she ran away, so weak, so slow. So if I wanted to go after her, I could have caught up. But if I tried to grab Sadako's uncle right, the shoulder or something right now, she might actually go crazy. So I had to follow her and try to clear this up. You killed Takano-san and Coach and Oshi-san, didn't you? You killed my uncle, and then you killed Rika. You murderer! No, it wasn't me. I didn't kill her. What are you saying? You just said it yourself, did you not? You wanted them to die, and then everyone died, didn't they? Well, no, just wishing that they were dead that couldn't. You couldn't even remember what you did, do you? How could I trust a person like you? Didn't you remember killing them just slipped your mind? No, maybe only pretending not to remember. Besides, what's that hatchet for? Try explaining that. Ugh, it's for... See? Keiichi-san, you're a killer, aren't you? Why did you do it? You were a little mean, but you were fun, kind, and once I even thought you were my real Nini. Why did you turn into this? I might have been able to slowly answer each one of Sadako's questions at a time, but in this situation, explaining my innocence in such a short time was impossible. I mean, I didn't even know if I was really innocent anymore. At the very least, I killed Sadako's uncle. There was no body, but I killed him, without a doubt. At that point, I was far from innocent. And I wished for Takano-san, Coach, and Oshi were dead, and that curse of mine was granted. When I wished for Takano-san to die, I didn't think anything more than a normal thing you'd say to someone you didn't like. But then she actually did die. And I realized that if I wanted people to die, they would. And hoping it'd happen again, I cursed Coach and Oshi in the same fate. So even ignoring Takano-san's death, Coach and Oshi were completely premeditated crimes. Was I a killer, just like Sadako said? Was I unable to distinguish between illusion and reality, and turned into a demon without remembering it, becoming a killer who carried out Oshiro-sama's curse? No, that couldn't be. It was impossible. Ah, damn it. The word impossible was impossible, and Hinama's out right now. How many freaking times have I said that word these past 3 days? Sadako had started crying again, was walking unsteadily. First it felt like she was still running, but now it's like she was walking away crying from someone bullying her. Why did things turn out this way? Why? If there was an answer to that, then I wanted to know too. Why? Why had it turned out like this? After Nini went away, I was lonely for a long time. But then Keiichi-san transferred to our school and everyone was happy again. It was fun again every day. It was beautiful. Yeah, she was right. Those days were bright and beautiful. And yet, after that, Sadako and I shouted the exact same thing. How did it turn out like this? The cicadas were sneering at the spectacle. A strange game of tag. Oh, shut up. Eventually I heard the murmur of a stream. The forest parted and a suspension bridge appeared. Sadako was crouching dangerously, wobbling as though she might fall at any moment. When I stepped onto the bridge, it swayed a lot, causing Sadako to stagger and fall on the spot. Sadako, are you okay? Don't come near me! You murderer! Sadako shouted, her hatred made very clear. It was sad. Words could cut, and this warmth flowing into my eyes would have been blood for sure. Why did you turn out this way? Kage-san, I really liked you. I wanted to go up to her and give her a hand, but the distance between us was uncrossable. If I got any closer, Sadako would start shouting again, and say things that would hurt me deeply again, so I couldn't approach any closer than this. Sadako, I don't know how things turned out like this either, but I can say this. I wasn't the one who killed Rika-chan. At least that is true. Please stop being so absurd. How do you expect me to believe anything someone who can't even rely on his own memories has to say? Tightened my hands into fists. This was mortifying. I wasn't crazy. Hidemazawa was crazy. Ever since I wandered into it, lost on that one night. This insane world where I was in the festival when I wasn't. And the uncle I killed was alive. Where death would just come by wishing for it. It was this world's fault. Mion and Rena started acting strangely, like they were possessed by something too. And Coach wouldn't believe anything I said. Even Sadako, who I should have protected, was yelling at me like this. Was the price of killing a man supposed to be this high? Was I going to be forced to stay in such a bitter world? I did the right thing. At least I wanted to. So then, why? I hated it. Every time I asked why, the days Sadako and I enjoyed in peace went so wrong. Sadako, please believe me. I'm not a murderer. What is that hatchet for? Can you give me a convincing explanation for that? Is this hatchet scaring you? Okay, I'll throw it away. That's what you want, right? Sadako didn't nod, but she seemed to be in agreement with that proposition. I clumsily took the hatchet out of my belt and dropped it over the side of the bridge into the stream below. There, it's gone. Now you listen to me, right? You think I'll let my guard down just because you got rid of your weapon? Kage-san, you're strong. It'd be easy for you to strangle me with your bare hands. Like hell I would ever want to kill Sadako. You idiot. Then what should I do? Should I put my hands on my head? Yes, why don't you? Please, put your hands on your head and face the other way. It was a cunning plan, much like the one she used during club activities. Putting my hands on my head and turning away would mean I couldn't attack Sadako very easily. I immediately acquiesced to her request, since it would make her feel better. This is alright. Please, listen to what I have to say. Sadako stood up and then carefully approached me from behind, and then she actually came up right behind me. She was so close, and yet it was so sad that I wasn't allowed to turn around. I sort of think I understand it isn't your fault, Kage-san. Huh? I think probably you've just been possessed by something evil. Until before I thought Kage-san was a killer, but now I know, after looking at your eyes. I could hear that Sadako was still crying, but her voice was gentle just the same. Kage-san could never kill anyone. Something simply possessed his body and made him do evil things. Was she speaking literally right now? Or was she trying to admonish me? I couldn't tell. Come to think of it, maybe they were just possessed, just like Kage-san. At the time, I was only thinking I would be killed, so I didn't think about it. But now I understand. That was the work of something evil that possessed you. Sadako? What are you? It was less like she was talking to me, and more like she was talking to herself, like she was confessing at my back. I understand, you know. It isn't like I haven't experienced it myself. Sadako's voice became mixed with sobs. Her pained voice tore at my heart. But I didn't know what Sadako was talking about. I climbed to the top of the ritual storehouse once. It was a few years ago. Once, when Sadako was playing hide-and-seek at the shrine grounds, she climbed on top of the roof of the storehouse for ritual implements, which everyone said not to go near, and hid. And Sadako saw that she could get in through a window meant for ventilation. For Sadako, the word curse was probably scary, but she was more curious about what was inside in the unknown storehouse. She took removing the grate on the window, which had already hung off, slid her small body in and climbed down inside. It was too dark to see much, but after descending she realized how high she had been. Despite the darkness, she could see a few things around thanks to the faint light coming in from the air window. To her disappointment, it was just a regular old storehouse. She tried to leave, but the door was locked up tight from the outside, and made not to open from within. She would have to go back out through the ventilation window she had come from, but the window was high up on the wall. There was no way she'd be able to climb back up. Sadako desperately tried not to cry, and racked her brain thinking of a way to get up there. There was a lot of bird cage-looking things hanging from the chains from the ceiling. She took the hanging chains and swung them along the wall. She cried up the bundle of chains. She might be able to manage to climb up in the ventilation window. There's nothing else she could do, so she had to try. And try she did. It was dark and creepy, and she didn't want to stay there forever. The more she thought about it, the more she panicked. She climbed the bundle of chains. Sadako could hear the clinks and clangs of everything creaking under her weight, and then just as her hand reached the window, one of the metal fixtures she had used to stick the chains in the wall flew off. The chains all began to pull loudly and furiously every which way. Spurred on by the sounds behind her, she managed to get out onto the roof from the window. Because of the weight of the flailing bundle of chains, the other fixtures broke, and one of the bird cages hanging from the ceiling fell on the floor with a huge noise. Under it was the image of Otoshiro-sama, his vessel, and the cage took off one of the arms, trapped some other implements beneath it. It didn't take very long for her to grow scared of what she had done. A deafening noise could be heard from the rest of the shrine grounds. A few other children heard it and gathered round. Of course, Rika was one of them. Then Rika's father, the shrine priest, with an angry look ran over, and then, as if what happened next, it was painful to remember. The only one who knew where Rika-chan's parents kept the keys to the ritual storehouse was Rika. So he scolded her, saying that this happened because Rika pulled a prank and hid her in there. He was very angry and menacing. Just looking at him was enough to frighten anyone. He exposed Rika's back, took a strange-shaped ritual cane or something, and struck her with it several times. Rika's words at the time, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." That pitiful voice, I still can't get it out of my head. I should have said it was me. I should have said so to save my best friend from that false accusation, without being afraid of Rika's father's terrible temper. Rika-chan gritted her teeth and cried, at a crime she didn't remember doing. Ever since then, the world had been strange. I know, I understand. This is Otoshiro-sama's curse. His judgment for messing up the ritual storehouse and forsaking my best friend. Otoshiro-sama's curse. My father and mother too, they vanished in that muddy stream. My mean aunt died too, and the Nini, who loved me more than anyone, ran away from home. And then Kage-san transferred in, and I thought I finally got my fun life back. But this time Kage-san was possessed, and even Rika got killed. There was something I heard once. Otoshiro-sama, when he really cursed someone, he doesn't kill them right away. He goes in orders of your closest friends. After killing them all, he kills that person last. So Kage-san, the curse got to you too. I'm sure the Ren'an-myon-san will meet the curse next, and then they'll kill me more. Oh! Calm down, Sadako. There is no curse. Nobody's trying to torment you. Then I turned around and I was thrust away with amazing force. Given our hands were awkwardly placed on my head, I couldn't take the fall and lost my balance. I'd been pushed not into the bridge, but to the side. Towards the stream. No, this can't be happening. Ah! As one last miracle, I was allowed to grab a cord hanging from the bridge. Far below me was the stream. We were pretty high up, and below were the rocks of all sizes. If I fell, it clearly wouldn't be pretty. The entire bridge was tilting under my body weight. My frail little grip probably wouldn't last another minute before my fingers had to let go. Sadako! Sadako! I didn't understand myself, what I meant by shouting her name then. Was I asking her to save me? Or was I asking her why she did this? Finally, everything came back into focus and I saw Sadako. And I was surprised at what an odd expression she had. It was the first time I'd seen it. An expression of righteous anger, meant only for those who needed to die. Die, you murderer! Give him back! Give back my Nene! Give back Rika and Mommy and Kate-san! As she screamed, she jerked the bridge to and fro. She didn't have to do that. I was going to fall anyway. I won't lose the likes of you. I won't lose to some stupid curse. I will never, ever lose to you. You took everyone. I'll never lose to you, not ever. Sadako, please, just let me say one thing. I don't know what my face looked at the time, but it seemed like it was enough to quell Sadako's agitation. I know that what I did isn't exactly praiseworthy. No, in fact, maybe I should have never done it at all, but I did it because I wanted you to be happy. Please, just believe that. end! You're still pretending to be Kate's son! Sadako didn't seem to have any more desire to listen to what I had to say. For that to happen at the very end like this was tragic. I didn't do any of it so you'd praise me. If it made you happy, then that was all that mattered. We were nothing. Without your smile, we were nothing. So after I disappear, please smile. If you can go on with your new life by my dying, then please just smile. Can't you at least promise me that? Stop speaking! Don't use Kate's son's mouth like that! Fall down! Die! And those were the last words Sadako ever said to me. Those sad, tragic, and altogether unrewarding words. What on earth was I? My desire to make Sadako happy ended up like this. Where did I first go wrong? What was the mistake I made? When did I make it? Was I the crazy one, or was it Hinamizawa? Even after all this, I thought I wasn't crazy at all. It was this eerie world that was crazy. This world I had accidentally wandered into that one night. Because that fun world, where I never doubted all the crazy times we had as a club, would go on forever. Couldn't possibly have transported into such an abnormal world. That fun world wouldn't have ever ended with this, with Sadako pushing me to my death. In the end, I was going to be swallowed up by this crazy world and disappear. No, I'd probably already disappeared. Yes, probably, on the night of Tatarigoroshi. I'm sure that in the world I really belonged to, I had vanished that night, and everyone was worried. It was laughable that I had taken this long to figure out I wasn't around anymore. Oroshiro's curse on that 5th year, Sadako's uncle dying, and me disappearing. In the real world, Sadako had already been freed. Maybe my friends were all lamenting my disappearance and valiantly trying to get back on their feet. And even though they were down to 4 people, the club would reopen. They'd have a good time without me, waiting for the day I would come back. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't come back home. But this is what I wished for. This is my wish for Sadako's smile, and my duty as her Nini. At this point, there'd be nobody left to torture you. Because Satoshi and I took 2 years, but we succeeded. That annoying, toothy smile of yours, we wanted to see it one more time. My pain wasn't gentle or merciful. It was a sharp pain, violent, powerful, and ruthless. The little compassion I had received in the span of a moment. And now I could die. I could say goodbye to this insane world. Farewell, crazed Hinamizawa. Thanks for giving me the psychic power to kill people whenever I wanted. If you still allow it, I'll wish one more last thing. The death of this very world, of this crazed Hinamizawa, so that nobody would ever again have to find themselves lost here again. It's not the end. We still got a little bit more to go. Achievement unlocked. Demon. Oroshiro-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Oroshiro-sama. Knowing this is hard because partially depending on the time period, he's been called with various titles, with subtle changes to his name, and nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is that the 4 syllables O, Ya, Shi, Do are always used. There's a theory stating that the shrine, or Yashiro, dedicated to Oroshiro-sama itself, became an object of worship, and that people began calling it O Yashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine, but that doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether this is related, but people say that the Furure family, the most respected bloodline in terms of worshipping Oroshiro-sama, actually inherited his blood. And the legend of the Furure family passed down. If for 8 generations in a row the firstborn child is a girl, the 8th daughter will be the reincarnation of Oroshiro-sama. If we go by this legend, the characteristics for Oroshiro-sama's name should be O for honorable, Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply because of something I thought up. There's no way to verify it. If this is the truth, then Otoshiro-sama would be named as such under the assumption he would come again. The second coming of an object of worship can be seen in several religions, so this isn't unusual. But a few of these religions call the second coming of their object of worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines. So we must not forget that mean it to be the end of the world. Rikafure, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk of the village. The rumors say she is the 8th generation, and Otoshiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of the Fures, but at the very least I can confirm that there is at least past 2 generations the first child has been a girl. Rika Furure watches over Hinamizawa. If the village were to lose her protector, what would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would once again create a hellish landscape where man-eating demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of the demons who suddenly remembered how delicious the weak humans were, who would only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that be like? Just imagining it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement. Let's go to the end. I'm somehow alive. I fell from a very high place, and I should have splatted on the ground. I'm alive? That's not right. That can't be right. I can't be alive. That doesn't make sense. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold, too. It hurt. Every sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was turned blue or red or oozing blood. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge from which I had fallen was. Considering I dropped from there, it was a miracle I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing conveniently lying right under me allowed me to escape instant death. Miraculous. It would not, but whatever. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I failed to die, and now I was still stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. But my body's sluggishness didn't make it feel at all like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, I feel like I had been asleep here for a decade. Now, the more feeling returned to my body, the more pain I flooded in. It hurt so much that it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term Coach's clinic brought memories back one after another. Memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Sadako was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now. And she would put on some clothes, go to the clinic, get checked up, and report how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me, without a doubt. This time, would they find out the real that I killed her uncle and arrested me? Or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Someone, please stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. I went downstream and went through an animal trail-like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind, and the air was stagnant. For a while now, I had been smelling the terrible stench of burned eggs. It made my face scrunch up. And at last I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I had heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirping in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rode up in chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. Couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. Never experienced this sort of quiet before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow, and many new leaves were spread on the ground despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently on the side of the road were yellowed, brown, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was of June and Hinamizawa I knew, and yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to spot a few small insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. They were corpses. I looked closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples and then strewed them about. The stench, what was it? It was terrible, like burned eggs, combined with all the bug corpses and leaves falling from the trees in summer. Had someone sprayed herbicide or pesticides around here? And at school, we apparently fumigate. They called it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anybody despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, and yet it felt like I was stammering around at midnight. Well, with the smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just, what was this anyway? There were no sounds, no noise, not even a breath. Hinazawa was silent. School had come into view right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made. There was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally I heard something. There were sounds of a few trucks. A few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard, idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trunks. It was hot and humid, even in my casual clothing. I couldn't imagine how unbearable that must have been. And I remembered. Our school was rented for the Forest Service field office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did forest rangers do anyway? Felt bad for them having to work in such heat, with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the trunk and lighting it up in the schoolyard. There were containers, really large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy, too. They were being carried in pairs. They lined up very neatly, like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several dozens, hundreds of tuna, completely filling up the fairly wide schoolyard up. Forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. As I stood there watching in a daze, the people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed at me and they shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard, sheets covering their trunks. But I could tell they were completely full. As I passed by, there was an awful stench that made me want to choke. This wasn't the same burned egg smell as before, but even a worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the truck caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Force. What? Self-defense? Like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard? Hey, you! Where did you come from? Suddenly someone slapped me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around and a canopied SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF person was in a green raincoat and a gas mask, while in the movies carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere. Where did I... Ow! Ha! Ow! When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. It made the SDF people exchange glances. I couldn't see their faces through their masks. They seemed surprised. Do you live in Hinamizawa? Can you tell us your name and address? Well, yeah, I sort of live here. My name is Keiichi Maebara. Oh, my address is Hinamizawa Village, Shishibo. After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the Jeep started talking into a radio. Base, do you read? Base, do you read? We have a 402. Survivor discovered. I repeat, we have a 402. We found a survivor. He's in front of the Forest Service office. This is Base. We copy. Secure the survivor at once. What is his status? Healthy. Wounded all over, but not fatally. He can walk on his own. We'll send him to HQ for safety. I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. They urged me into the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on this gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. It was heavy and hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper, adjusting my mask. Excuse me? Has something happened? Where were you? What were you doing? Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you. I fell from a rope bridge way back in the mountains. I think I passed out in the riverbed. I don't know actually what day it is. Today is June 22nd, 1983, Wednesday. That surprised me. I thought it could push me off the bridge on Tuesday the 21st. That meant I'd been asleep on the riverbed for an entire day. Forgive me for asking again, but did something happen? Why is the SDF here? Is this a drill? Had my questions been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. The one driving in the radio seat, talking on his own radio, turned on the vehicles, turned the dial, and some broadcast station in another came in. I started listening to the voice of a radio announcer I was familiar with. was conducted at the Prime Minister's office. In regards to questions from the press that the SDF not responding to the disaster promptly was directly related to an unprecedented, unheard of catastrophe, Chief Cabinet Security Okunua had this to say. And so I believe that once the SDF received the dispatch order from the prefecture government, they responded promptly. According to him, the SDF was prompted to respond to the crisis after receiving their orders. He implied that it was the prefecture's responsibility for taking too long to comprehend the situation. When did the government, who requested the SDF's dispatch, actually become aware of the outbreak of such an unprecedented catastrophe? And did he not invite further damage because of the times lost, because he sent the request for disaster relief? In other words, because of the bureaucracy. We are awaiting further investigations into the matter. This is Mr. Okada, reporting on the Prime Minister's office residence. At this point, we can take another look at the political response following this disaster. In the middle of the night, between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa village, Shishibon. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Hinamizawa area. The gas was relatively heavy, and as it spewed out, it began to flow. That flow went down into a small river and headed directly into the Hinamizawa village. Within a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Every house and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it was as though they all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe striking in the middle of the night caused detection to come too late. But there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer shop in Okimiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to its branch office in Hinamizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer shop made repeated calls, but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well. It's extremely regrettable. If they had contacted the police or fire department at this point, it's highly possible the situation would have turned out more positively. At the very least, it's possible a portion of the village might have been saved from tragic annihilation. 6 a.m. Residents in the area and the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. Rotten eggs! That's the smell of sulfur! They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals had gone into an accident and reported to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in the Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported it to the prefecture and prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The government was traveling into a nearby prefecture for inspection, and in accordance with the regulations, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to Director General and set up a disaster countermeasure office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasure came too late. As has recently been pointed out by citizens groups, his trip with honorary Dia members to inspect other prefectures was based solely on good relations, and it's rumored they preoccupied themselves with a drinking party. Sources closer to him claimed the governor had been drinking all night and had gone to sleep in a drunken slate. He was completely drunk when the environmental chief phoned him as well, and apparently he could not get him to pay any attention to the matter. And so it took about an hour for the governor to sober up, gain an understanding of the situation, and gather information. Though not as extreme as the governor's case, the environmental chief had become director general, and the governor's absence will likely also be questioned about his negligence. In addition, without any procedures in place on the prefecture's side, that predicted catastrophes as massive, they would have always reacted too late and it ended up being fatal. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefecture police, the government requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with protective equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak. Whatever the case may be, it was unfortunate this happened while everyone was sleeping in the middle of the night. Had the same disaster occurred in the day, it would have been entirely different. All the households in the Hinamizawa region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but their results are predicted only to increase that number. Here with us in the studio today is Mr. Fujiwara, a professor at Beep University who's well acquainted with volcanic disasters. Doctor, can such a horrible and sudden outburst of poisonous gas actually happen? It isn't at all too unusual for this to happen right around craters, at least. Japan is a volcanic nation, so has many active volcanoes. There's always a danger of hazardous gas around any of these craters, and it's generally a rule among mountain climbers not to go near them. Does this mean the rotten egg smell that visited Hinamizawa village was a normal sort of gas from volcanic craters? Judging by how it smelled like rotten eggs, We think it's hydrogen sulfide, a gas which is particularly frequent in accidents compared to other volcanic gases. If it's dense, it becomes extremely dangerous. Higurashi village is very far from the craters of many volcanoes. Can hydrogen sulfide be generated even from a place not close to a crater? I don't know all the details, so I can't say anything concrete, but in other countries there are records of gas eruptions due to magma buildup under hot springs. It's an extremely rare event, but it is possible for such a thing to happen even in a region not near craters. Thank you very much, Doctor. We appear to have an announcement from the Japanese Defense Agency. Mr. Morikawa, are you there? Yes, I'm in the Japanese Defense Agency. The agency has made an announcement regarding the source of the Higurashi village gas disaster. Analysis from the Ground Self-Defense Forces Department of Chemistry has found that the gas is a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. Miss Morikawa, do you know whether the gas is still erupting or spreading to nearby areas? According to the SDF 9th Division, who are currently engaged in a rescue operation at Higurashi village, the gas density is steadily decreasing. They have announced that the damage will not spread. However, it does not change the fact that the surrounding areas are still in danger, and that very strict observation must be maintained. This is Morikawa from the Japan Defense Agency, and now we have a report on the state of those who have been made to evacuate the Okamiya area. Shishimo Shionozaki Elementary School is one of the evacuation sites, and we currently have a reporter on scene. Wait, what? Inside the jeep, clattering and bouncing along the rough road, no one answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Higurashi in a single night? Where was Higurashi village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? Names of places I heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died and how many were injured? How many people were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? Eventually we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time I saw the flag of Japan hanging on the pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher. You're going to be alright. How do you feel? Can you walk? Yes. Ow. Because of my house, they forced me to lay in the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio. Multiple wounds. High possibility of fractures and internal damage. Large laceration in the head. Pupils normal, but even without bleeding from the fundus. Fundus? What's a fundus? What's a fundus? Is that like a layer of, like a part of the head? It just sounds like it would... It's like the humerus. It doesn't sound like it would be the term used for something important. Brain damage is still possible. And then from the clinic entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Higurashi. That's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. 2 troops, holding shoulders and legs, like some kind of baggage, picked them up and threw them into the trunk. In the trunk of the truck. People's bodies piled in heaps. They were just like baggage, and that told me they were already nothing but shells. At the moment, I remembered all those colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lining up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. Corpses, 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 corpses. Corpses. Corpses, corpses, corpses. Corpses! You jackasses! Don't just throw the victims in like that! They lived here! The troops carrying the sacks answered me with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Higurashi. My final wish. Again. It was granted. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and it happened the next day. And please, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night. It's still going on. Please, please, end it already. Hey, he's lost consciousness! Shout his name! Quickly! Maibara-kun! Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just blink! Maibara-kun! 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 Suddenly the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries. His breathing stopped! Get his respirator tract open! Do CPR! Make him live! Damn it, damn it! No more dead people! Nobody deserves to die! Don't kill him! Don't kill him! I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace. And they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Sadako. If this is the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, and this is a little much, Otoshiro-sama. Why did you never punish me? And to think of it, Sadako had said something. Otoshiro's actual curse never goes for the target at first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oroshio-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, but it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, but Oshiro-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. Last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now I was liberated. As the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind. Their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone, Prefecture. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide erupted from the Onigafucha swamp, one of the Hinamizawa area's water sources, and spread through the entire village. There were 1,200 victims. 20 had gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigations, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onigafuchi Swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forward claiming the disaster was a curse based on the Hinamizawa legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There is apparently local legends of a curse spreading a miasma, destroying the village, and some scholars believe the similar gas disaster may have happened in the past and remained part of their legends. More extreme periodicals suggest that this was an extension of a string of freak death incidents that had been happening in recent years in Hinamizawa Village, stirring interest and theories in this curse of Yorishiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Hinamizawa Village who had escaped the disaster claimed of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professed to being possessed by Otoshiro-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways, and the impact of the disaster has had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night killing people spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficulty breathing, headache, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it began doing odd things. Most of them were mistakenly attributed by tabloid presses. But afterwards, some even began to call the mental issue arising from the Hinamizawa tragedy the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was, at one point, undone as a result of the decrease in gas density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading the area to be condoned off again, whereas that the area is sound asleep, all trace of its former life intact and left to rot. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Barabara, named Beep, who lived at Beep Hinamizawa. At the time of the rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking him for some time, but all interviews have been refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village? Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. Great Hinamizawa disaster and memorial list. Jiro Tomotake, real name unknown, possibly committed suicide in the village. Miyotakano, strangled to death in the mountains of Gifu. Kuroto Oshi, went missing during the investigation. Katsura Kuratami, went missing during the investigation. Kurusei Irie, Vikafure, murdered and committed suicide and murdered. Gas disaster memorialist. The Great Hinamizawa Disaster, GHD. A find it interesting, a good chunk of this is actually in German instead of in... Tatsuyoshi Kasai died at the victim's hospital. Shion Samazaki committed suicide at the victim's hospital. Investigation concluded. Keiichi Marubara attempted suicide at the victim's hospital. Diagnosed with severe mental disorder due to a disaster and ongoing long-term treatment in a prefectural facility, has refused interviews and lived... How odd for there to be credits for this game, and yet the other games didn't have credits. It's the boy. It's expansion 7. Ryukishi. Now it mentions minigames. Minigames are only in the main versions of the games, like the original versions. There are no minigames in any of these versions, which is kind of sad. And some of the music was taken out for copyright reasons, and I'm like, ah. And that's fair. You gotta abide by copyright, but still, that sucks. Also, we're still not done. There's just a little bit more. There's also the after party too. But this is important. This is the reason why this is one of my favorite scenarios. 2003, late summer. An elderly couple walking in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and come across a cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experienced working as a journalist for a photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. Label on the tape read 11/28/1983, Keiichi Marubara. It is thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Keiichi Marubara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983. As the only person who lived through the disaster on the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value. It's really hard to talk about stuff when I know I'm being recorded. Please, don't worry about it. Here, it won't be a problem if I do this, right? After this, the sound quality is dramatically increased. Did he cover the recording device with something? Then let's get started. Here's my first question. Keiichi-kun, where were you the night of the great disaster? I'd gone behind the shrine, took a path through the woods for a while. There's a rope bridge there, a little while before you get into the mountains. I fell from there and lost consciousness. Did this happen during the night of the disaster, between the 21st and the 22nd? No. It was the morning of the 21st, on Tuesday, which means I woke up the afternoon of the next day. I think I was out for a day and a half. Why on earth were you there? I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to know, but the bridge you fell from that day, a weekday, I might add, was quite far from both your house and the school, wasn't it? Speaking frankly, there's some who say you knew of the great disaster beforehand, and fell from the rope bridge as you were trying to flee the village. This isn't a joke. Please, don't be so arbitrary about this. I think it's a terrible thing to say, too. Please, don't be offended. Anyway, about the rope bridge you fell from, it's right here on the map, right? The rope bridge beyond the back of the shrine had... and through the path in the woods. Probably. I never went over there, so I can't say for sure. I guess I want to know why you went out somewhere you'd never been before on the weekday morning. And then, well, about the riverbed you fell unconscious on. Have you heard the rumors about that being impossible? Impossible. That's that word. Again? Again. For a little while, Keiichi Marubara mutters the word impossible several times. Why would it be impossible? You know how the volcanic gas originated in the Onagafuchi swamp. Some scholars did some pretty delicate simulations and modeling and discovered something very interesting. The volcanic gas was heavier than the air, so it went along the ground, flowing into lower and lower places, like water does. And with the Onagafuchi swamp as its source, they would have been able to test how many times it would take for the gas to erupt and spread across the whole village. So, well, that riverbed you were unconscious on, the gas, it would have flown right down there. I don't really understand what you're getting at. In other words, if you were really passed out in that riverbed, We would have been in the middle of all that toxic gas that was spreading everywhere that night. That means there was no chance you could have been passed out there. Allow me to be a little more frank. I think that maybe you might be telling a lie. During the Great Disaster, you were hiding in a safe place, keeping an eye out for when the gas got thinner and reappearing when were secured by the SDF. How about that? Is that right on the mark? For a short time, the journalist presses Keiichi Baro further, in a teasing way, but all can occur are heavy sighs. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. What do you mean, you wouldn't be surprised? Was this recording really taken of Keiichi Marabara? Some harbor suspicions. You said it before, didn't you? That it was impossible. Impossible things happen in Hinamizawa all the time. There are people who shouldn't exist. Dead people end up alive. It's not really that unusual. Never thought I, of all people, would be asked to prove that I was still alive when I was supposed to have died. The journalist and Keiichi Maebara both laugh for a little while. To verify its authenticity, some members in the Maebara finally checked tapes with his voice in it. However, the sound is not clear. Much time had passed, so the relatives I checked with couldn't remember what he sounded like. I'm unable to gain positive proof it was actually Keiichi Marabara's voice. Alright then, I'll change the subject. What do you think of the debate of whether this disaster was the curse, the 5th year of serial freak deaths, incidents in Hinamizawa? I don't think it was. I'm the curse that year after all. What do you mean? I was just answering the question. Doubts also remain regarding the date, 11/28, written on the tape. The curse. Well, you probably wouldn't believe me when I tell you this. I was the one who caused it. I was the one who wished for the whole village to die, and it happened. What an exciting story. Exciting. I suppose you could call it that. After Maebara failed suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with a mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility. I was the one who killed Takano-san. And Coach Inoshi, too. At the time, I had some kind of divine power. Yes, I suppose it was like footsteps. Footsteps? Wait, what's that supposed to mean? You. Have you never heard footsteps before? Tip. Tap. Click. Click. The facility never allowed any news coverages, so it's extremely unlikely that the tape of the media dated after August 1983 would have had his voice in it. Today, when you were walking around, try stopping suddenly. Something interesting will happen. Anyway, if you hear an extra footstep, even though you've already stopped walking, you'd better be careful, you know. Yes, I'll be careful. Is what I'm saying really that funny to you? However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful method of collecting data when it was active, so there's still a possibility he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Maebara to talk. You've been doing nothing but laugh in my face this whole time. You're just like Coach. You pretend to sympathize me, to listen to what I have to say, but your eyes are telling me what you think. That you think I'm a lunatic. Ha ha ha. That's not true. Ha ha ha. No, I can tell. Your eyes are the same as Coach's. This is just truly Keiichi Marabara's voice. The authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in mystery. I never heard footsteps again after that day, so I don't think I have that terrible power anymore. Perhaps right here, right now, I'll wish for you to die. I wish for your death for saying all these unpleasant things. Yes, this time, why not decide how you die? Takano-san was burned to death, so let's go with the opposite. With water. I hope you drown and die. How's that? 15 years after this tape was recorded, the reporter, just as Keiichi Marabara had predicted, died in an accident out at sea. If I'm on top form like I was then, you'd die before tomorrow morning for sure. Now then, I wonder how many days it'll take for you to drown. You'd better be careful, you know. Don't go getting yourself killed by some stupid curse I put on you, okay? The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Marabara's laughter. and Keiichi Marabata. Late on the night, 11:30, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, cause unknown. Records remain the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died. An extra set of footsteps. That ending right there is why I love this chapter. I love just Keiichi going goddamn crazy and thinking he's caused all this. New scenario's unlocked. All cast review. Yay! Jesus Christ! Yay! Now, and yes, the Great Hinamizawa Disaster with a picture of a cassette tape. Nice. And now we can do the fun part. Oh god, I love that ending. Like, that ending is my favorite out of all the scenarios. Like, other than the one for Higurashi-hen, which is the one for the answer arc, for the last one, which was Tatarigoroshi-hen. Thank you for very much for enjoying Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3, Tatarigoroshi. How did you like it? It was a different sort of atmosphere than the previous chapters. I'd be happy if you enjoyed it. A bad end again. The type which you were so fond of, huh? Personally, I wanted to get a scene of the gas coming in, the villagers spasming, foaming at the mouth one by one dying. Don't you all think so too? Of course I don't think so! Again! It happened again! A huge bad end. Huh? Michan, you sure you're happy about the bad end? Well, it's more like we can all honestly do all this pointless laugh. Nah. The terrible endings have all been escalating through each chapter, and it's finally reached a culmination, I suppose. Doshi-san, don't say that. Everyone died together as friends. As friends. Nipa. I guess you could say that. I died every time, though, so I'm a little tired of it. It'd be nice to have an ending where I didn't die once in a while. Nah, Tomotage-san, you gotta die. Tomotage-san, you're kind of like a news reporter. When you die, it's like, oh, we're in the second half now. Kind of. Okay, now here are all the new character portraits that debuted in this chapter. Everyone give a big round of applause for his coach, Irie Kurosuke-san. I'm honored to have your introduction. Hello there. I was a minor character, but having a full portrait like this makes me feel really important. It's true. You had too many appearances, and too much dialogue to be a minor character this time. I don't know if I'll appear in the next scenario, so please root for me. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Chie-sensei, who's been around since Chapter 1, but never had a portrait until now. Hello there, everyone. They've had me appear in school scenes ever since the first chapter, but for whatever reason, I didn't have my own portrait. I wonder why. Yes, I wonder. Oh, someone give Chie-sensei a seat, please. Do we need to get, like, 2 booths put together? Okay, now everyone's here. Rana, you can do the honors again. Okay, everyone. Please pick up the cup nearest to you on your table. There are plenty of different drinks. These after parties have really gotten lively. How many do we have here now? Including us, I think that's about 10 people. Now we finally have the same number of minors and adults. We can all drink without being ashamed. Speaking of beer, how is it that something so delicious when cold turns so bad when warm? One of the 7 wonders of the world, I say. I wonder why. Okay, I'll pour some beer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh? There's 6 adults here? Meep. I would like the foamy barley tea as well. Fucking Rika-chan! Rika-chan, you can't drink! Anyway, Rena-san, let's get this moving.
Well, okay. Can I have everyone's attention, please? All right, everyone. Excellent work on the Tatarigoroshi chapter. Tatarigoroshi. I bit my tongue.
It's okay, Rena. Just take it slow.
Tatarigoroshi chapter. Cheers! Kanpai! Yay! Party, 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 party!
Okay then, let's get down to our traditional plot discussion.
Still though, this chapter just confused us yet again. Well, if anyone has an opinion, please raise your hand.
Wow, everyone's being so discreet. No hands? Then why don't I break the ice? Oh, excuse me, could you change the music, please? To something a little more mysterious. Yeah, that's good.
The mood has been set.
Alright, Takano-san,
Take it away!
I think that just by poring over the Tatarigoroshi story, the mystery won't be revealed. I know what you mean. Obviously, that's how the story's been set up.
Was there something like that in particular?
I don't know if I'm right, but in Onikakushi, when Maebara was eating in the restaurant with Oshi-san, Sonozaki-san found out. It was a little mysterious, right? It was certainly mysterious just in Onikakushi, but after reading Watanagashi a few times, things made a lot of sense. When I mentioned a restaurant with cute uniforms during the story, it must have been Angel Mort. And Angel Mort is owned by the Sonozaki family, so... Someone who knew Kei-chan was there too, and told me. It actually makes a good amount of sense, right? That's what we meant. There are subtle differences in Higurashi's stories, but I think there's 3 facets that are the same for each. Character settings, for example.
I was scary in Onikakushi, but that was only because it was Onikakushi. It was because my character was the exact same in all 3 stories, is that it?
I agree with the characters being exactly the same. The most extreme case being me dying the same way in the same place every time.
No matter which story it is, you always die on the same day.
Mortomotake! There's a scene where during Watanagashi, Takano-san and Tomitake-san sneak into the ritual implement storehouse. The same scene may have still happened in the other stories, even though it wasn't portrayed.
I think it still happened. Save for a few events, the weather, the day of the festival, what we did in the club, and Sadako's uncle coming home. It's almost all the same.
Which means we have a bunch more questions. If the stories are told in the exact same environment every time, why do they keep ending up being so different? If we think in a general sound novel type of way, sometimes the story branches depending on choices, right?
So, like if in Watanagashi you give the doll to my sister?
And an unavoidable bad end from a choice so early on. That's pretty scary.
Well, in Tatarigoroshi, maybe whether you decide to kill the uncle or not.
I think it's way before that. I think it branches back when the uncle's lover disappeared because of some trouble and he returned to Hinamizawa.
Then what was the first branch in Onikakushi?
I think it was when I appeared and started talking about the serial death incidents relating to Odashido-sama's curse.
You know, I just thought of something. If Keiichi-san gave the doll to Mion-san, and if Oshi-san and my uncle hadn't appeared, would we not have spent our time in peace? Would we not have spent our time in peace without anything happening?
I see. Sadako's gotten right to the point. You're right. You can't say that again. Then maybe we should pray Oshi-san and her uncle don't show up in this dark story. And then we can prevent Sonozaki-san from getting in a bad mood. Everyone will be happy. Yay, big sister, you're needed for the bad ending. Be careful, everyone. If you make my sister mad, you're sure to get a bad end. But what are you saying, Shion? Next time I'll pound nails into you without mercy. Bang, bang. Just you wait.
We can't solve any of the mysteries thus far, but we seem to have put together a plan for how to get the story to end happily.
I wonder if that would really make us happy. Oshi-san and Teppei Hojo-san don't show up. Mion-san gets the doll. Is that all we have to make sure of? You're right. We're all forgetting the most important thing. Remember the Great Hinamizawa disaster?
You can't prevent natural disasters. Should we have everyone in the village put on gas masks and move away? It's probably Odashiro-sama's curse, so we need to make sure not to make Odashiro-sama angry.
This is getting a little tricky. We mustn't anger Odashiro-sama, eh? And what do we do in order to prevent that? The dam project itself is probably out of the question. Maybe if there was never a dam project in the first place? That would be hard. If that didn't happen, we would need a ritual to quell Oroshiro-sama's anger. Sinking a sacrifice in the Onigafuchi swamp? A ritual sacrifice!
A sacrifice? Who do we need to sacrifice?
Come on, use your head! Someone who dies no matter what happens! If he's gonna die anyway, we might as well have it help out Hinamizawa. Tomotake-san in the distance. No! When you say dies no matter what, you're talking about me, aren't you? Poor Tomotake-san! I knew all along. I knew you had some very important role in this story, Jiro-san. We'll get you to play your part. With that, we have a blueprint for getting a nice, happy, good ending, don't we? Let's give it a try since we have time. Everyone involved, come over here. Sob. First, we stop Uncle Hojo, whose runner ran out on him from returning to Hinamizawa. Hiya, my name's Uncle Hojo. He has no portrait, so I'm standing in. I'm so lonely and blue because my lover ran away. Time to go back to Hinamizawa, lock up Sadako-chan, and raise her into a maidservant. Why don't I take my motorbike back? I'll just put in the key and click, click. Kaboom!
Judgment! To ashes and dust shall you return! Sadako-chan, don't you think this is a little too much gunpowder? I hope Coach is alright, Sweat.
Next we stop Oshi from showing up. We put sugar in his car. Me this time? Nufu. My name is Kurado Oshi, a hot, good-looking middle-aged man who looks like a blues singer. This is my favorite after party so far. Kaboom!
Meep. Judgment for you.
And lest we forget, a follow-up service for my sister. Come here, big sis. There's a cute little doll for you. Oh, how nice. Not really understanding this. And finally, we must quell Oroshiro-sama's anger.
And then, will our last actor please come up?
Tie him fast, wrap him up and hang him. We'll sing in 3 days, right? I'm not that patient. Let's get this over with. And with that, the case has been closed. Yay! Pachi, 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 pachi. Oh, what the?
And all of a sudden, the siren mine is going, what's the matter? It's asking me to destroy you. This pile of corpses is a pretty big deal. Holy shit. Huh? It's the phone. Hello? Okay, H-kun. Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, looks like you're all having a roaring old time. And yet I'm busy with reading the scenario for the next story. Whatever, I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you off without any teasing. Is she on there? Can you put her on? What? You're going to announce it here? I wanted to keep it secret for a little while longer, but okay. A secret between Shion-san and Kei-san? Oh, what do you mean? Nobody told me about this, nobody! Okay, Kei-chan, let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The main character in the next story will be Shion Ozaki! What? Yeah, so that's that. The one topping the popularity charts makes since her first appearance. The late appearing young sister of the twins that have been the pattern of things ever since the days of TH! I have no idea what that means, and that doesn't matter. Anyway, I've been fired from my main character post for once. If the rumors are right, I might even get a portrait finally. Yahoo!
Well, portraits of Kei-chan would be a big waste of disk space. If it couldn't all fit on one disc, there's pretty high chance that he'll be the first one dropped. Are you okay with this, Shion-san? The main character always meets some terrible fate in the end.
Well, until now. But that doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen next time.
With Tatarigoroshi, we've already had the third game of the Higurashi When They Cry series. The first half presented a lot of strange and exciting mysteries, but starting next time, the mysteries will start to be solved in the second half. Marking the start of the investigation arc. Temporary name.
That means it'll be a thrilling story where I become a detective and solve all these crazy unfair mysteries. You'd all better think up good signature phrases, like, "You, sir, are the criminal." It won't happen. Ever. You'll get too close to the family secrets, be imprisoned, and get tortured. You're a shoo-in to meet a violent, unnatural death.
Sis,
I should say the same about you. Are you mentally prepared to see through all your mysteries and secrets and have you apologize to me and commit suicide?
No chance of Otoshiro-sama's curse for me, is there?
Anyway, the news story is to begin in the second half, temporarily called Mekakashi, or Eye-Opening, is currently undergoing diligent development. We should be able to unveil it to you all in the near future, so I hope you look forward to it. Except that's not the next chapter!
Orikakushi watanagashi Tatarigoroshi. Tatarigoroshi.
Rena, you're struggling with that one.
I'm sorry! What truths will you come up with reading these 3 stories? Or will you just come up with more questions instead of theories? Rena has no clue either.
For all you warriors who never yielded to these 3 mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario, thanks for your enthusiasm. One which was never really planned on giving to you. Please enjoy it. Except Mekakushi is not next. The next one is the arc with which actually involves Rika. So while it talks about Mekakushi, they're not hinting at the fact of the 4th chapter. Okay, I did that in under 2 hours. That's awesome. Okay, that's gonna be the end of the stream. God, that after party was great. That was hilarious. My arm glows with an awesome power. It tells you to destroy you and your stupid theories. I'm gonna destroy MatPat with his stupid theories. Watch, at some point he's gonna make a theory on goddamn Higurashi and I'm gonna be so angry. It's just like, yeah, no, play through all the games, my dude. Try again. My lord, if we could create a feasible theory for what happened in this goddamn arc, that'd be great, because there is no, that's even a theory among the fan community. It's like, what the hell actually happened in Tatarigoroshi-hen? Because, how was Keiichi in 2 spots? Where was the uncle's body? Where did it go? He obviously wasn't seen past the point when he was supposedly dead. Anyways, I hope you all have a good night, and may the cicadas and the Higurashi lull you to sleep.